Hello everyone, this is Shalu Kumar again from ONTC. I'm an experienced OSCE nurse trainer for the NMC OSCE exam in UK and also the lead trainer for OSCE nurse training Cambridge. So I'm back with another video for you for your adult NMC OSCE exam. So if you like my videos, please press the like button now and subscribe to my channel. So in today's video, I will be talking about the community drug chart. I know lots of you have been asking me. So I've already done a video on implementation station, which you can go ahead and check if you haven't checked already. But this is now just another extension to that video, and this is about the community drug chart, okay, because there used to be always a community drug chart in the exam centers, but in November last year they have released some supporting documents and they have shown us as part of the supporting document what a community chart should look like, okay, and what you need to do with it and how you document into it. So I will be showing you an example of a community drug chart today, and also showing you the different parts of the drug chart and any differences from the inpatient hospital drug chart, and also I will highlight to you how to where the drugs are to read and how to document into the community drug chart, which is different than your in hospital patient scenarios, okay. So we will be looking at that. Just a quick rewind on what implementation station is. So if you just look at your slide, so you got it's a 15-minute station that hasn't changed, whether it's in hospital patient scenario or whether it's community scenario, you still get your full 15-minute. There will be a mannequin, and assessor will be the voice of the mannequin for this station, or you get a real actor, okay. So you can also get a real actor in this station. So other thing is you only need to give oral drugs, not expected to give any controlled drugs, and you need to give indications of all drugs. That's the same as in hospital scenario as in community scenario. If you don't know indication of a drug, there is a online BNF is provided for you on a little screen, okay, so you can check in the online BNF. So again, in community scenario, drugs, how do you give your drugs? You could still be given a drug trolley or a little box, like a community setup box for drugs, or a little wall cabinet, okay. So you can see any of these still in your community scenario. The main thing is you will be given all the drugs you need to give your medication in the community implementation scenario. Okay, so just a little refresher on the principles of drug administration, which I always say is 6, not 5. So right drug, right patient, right dose, right date and time of administration, right route and method of administration. So and the last one, but very important one, is checking the validity of your prescription, because we should never give a medication if our prescription is not valid and legible, okay. So we need to check that as part of our implementation station, that our prescription is valid and is legible, okay. So let's now look at the community drug chart, okay. So I'm going to be talking about the community drug chart today. So let's look at the community drug chart. Just as a disclaimer, this does not belong to a real patient. I have just made this scenario just to help you with understanding the drug chart, okay. So this does not belong to a real patient, this drug chart. It is just an example I have created just for the teaching purpose, okay. So that's what it is. So we got the front page here, which gives us some instructions. So as you can see, on the top is saying is implementation station, but it's the community scenario, and then it tells you a little scenario, which is your patient who has returned to a care home following 1 week stay in the hospital due to unstable blood glucose, okay. So they had unstable blood glucose and they were admitted to hospital. This patient, now they are back in the nursing home. So you are the community nurse and has been asked by the patient GP to visit the care home to give 1400 hour drugs, okay. So your drug time is 1400. Please administer and complete the documentation for 1400 medication in a that's what you need to do in a safe and professional manner, okay. And again at the bottom they given you the date and time. As you can see, date is today, time is 1400, and also they given you other instructions to clearly verbalize everything you're doing in the station, because your examiner need to know what you're checking, what you're giving, not giving, and all your drug checks as well. So that's really, really important. Okay, if we go on to the inside page now, so your 15-minute start, so you read this before your 15-minute, that's the instruction page. You're allowed to read that before your timer start. So after your timer start, now you can open the drug chart, and you can see there is first page which says about patient identification. So it's telling you patient name, patient date of birth, their NHS number, GP's address, height, weight, BMI. So they're telling you all that on the addressograph. So that's where you're going to do your ID check against. Okay, so when you do your ID check against, you're going to do against this page. And also then if you look underneath, there is a box where all the administrators have signed. So it's signed by the patient GP who is prescribed on this drug chart. So you can clearly see it says Dr. Peter Smith's name, GMC number, and you also, so you will read all that. So that's the prescriber signature. Okay, so the box underneath now is the one which we need to sign in, because we will be administrating the drug. So okay, so this is the log box for all the administrators. So there is already one name there, the nurse who has used this drug chart before. Now you will go ahead and add your name and initials and signature and your base in there. Okay, so that is base is just the location. So you could add same as your prescriber location if you are attached to the GP surgery. That would be the obvious one to add. So you will write that as a community nurse. You can write the same location. So you have added that in. So I highlighted in yellow that place where you need to write all those details. Now if you look again at the bottom of the page is the allergies. That's where you're going to do the allergy check against. And then again there is a medication risk factor at the bottom of the page, and you can clearly see, because this patient is diabetic, so they have highlighted that patient is diabetic. That's the medication risk factor which has been highlighted for you. And if we go on to the next page now, it's the same patient details, same addressograph. Okay, and then you have been given some omission codes. Okay, so if you're going to omit a drug, you're going to use one of these omission codes. They're exactly the same as in your inpatient scenario. Okay, so the logic how you will use these drug codes, omission codes, are exactly the same. The principle is exactly the same. The reason is exactly the same as you have learned for your inpatient scenario. Okay, so it's not anything different in community. Okay, so next we are going to now look at the community patient specific direction. So that means your patient prescription. Okay, so that's how it looks like in your community drug chart in your exam. So now we're going to read this prescription, and then we're going to see what's due for 1400, and then we will be able to give that to our patient, dispense a, give a, and sign a. Okay, so for example, I've just made some examples of some medication to just show you how it appears on your drug chart. As you can see, the first drug the patient is on, date is today, drug is bisoprolol, which is obviously your antihypertensive drug, dose is 5 milligram, route is oral, time is due is 8 o'clock this morning, frequency is once a day, and date is plus 7 days, is prescribed by Dr. Peter Smith, which is patient GP, and date is today. And then it's already been given, because it was given this morning 8 o'clock by one of the nurses called Emily Russ, today at 8 o'clock. And there is also the signature of the pharmacist there, Lenny David, so that's there. So it was a valid prescription, and the medication was given this morning. And then there is another medication which is today, which is metformin, because your patient is diabetic, and dose is 500 milligram, route is oral, time is 8 o'clock, again frequency is once a day, and date is 7 days. And then it's prescribed by Dr. Peter Smith today, and then is given by Emily Russ today at 8 o'clock. So again, that has been given this pharmacy signature, because there was 8 o'clock morning drug. Next one is just an example is paracetamol, which is for pain today. Dose is 1 gram, route is oral, time is 8 o'clock, frequency is 4 to 6 hourly, and date is +7 days, prescribed by again Dr. Peter Smith today, and is given by one of the nurses, Emily Russ, today at 8 o'clock, and there's a pharmacy check on that. So that was already given for pain this morning. Now another one due is, date is today, drug is again paracetamol for pain, dose is 1 gram, route is oral, and time due is 1400, so that's your due time. And 4 to 6 hourly is written, and date is 7 days, prescribed by Dr. Peter Smith today. So it's a valid prescription. So you would just say you will be happy to give your patient some pain relief if they need some pain relief, because it's a valid prescription and it's due at your time of 1400. And another next drug, if you look onto the next page, the prescription continues on to the next page. If there is more medication, they will be written on the next page. Date is today, drug is ferrous sulfate, which is your iron supplement. Dose is 325 milligram, route is oral, time due is 1400. Again, your time in your scenario, due time and frequency is once a day, and day is 7 days, prescribed by Dr. Peter Smith today. So again, this is valid and legible prescription. So you will say you will be happy to give this to your patient, and because it's their routine drug. And so that's it. So, and then when we go on to the last page, so you don't have a separate section for regular drugs, stat, doses, or PRN. No, everything is prescribed in the same section under patient specific direction. Okay, so that's your prescription. So if now we go on to the last page, it has the same addressograph, and then is the same way. Then you can see there is a section for writing omitted drugs. So if you omit a drug for any reason, you will be writing it at the back here, listing it. So it's the same way to complete. This section is exactly the same way, and it's the same way to complete the documentation if you omit a drug. So now just note one thing, all omitted drugs need to be written at the back. Before it used to be that if you only use code 10, but now any code you use, any drug you admit, both in inpatient scenario or community scenario, it has to be listed at the back. Okay, so they have taken that code 10 now, so any code, you can still use code 10 for any other reason, but you need to list all the drugs. It doesn't matter whether you omit with the code 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, whichever one. So you still need to list all of them at the back. Okay, so that's the same logic and same principle as in your inpatient scenario. So so you can see we have 2 due drugs for this patient at 1400. So we will now go and dispense the drugs using NMC guidance, making sure you check the name of the drug, the dose, and the expiry date, and then match it to your prescribed dose, work out how many tablets you give out of every medication, dispense it correctly using aseptic non-touch technique, then you will administer that to your patient after doing another second quick ID check, and then you will sign for it. Okay, so how would you document? Now that's what I'm going to show you, because I am sure you know rest of the station is the same as dispensing into the inpatient hospital scenario. So how do we document? Because which is slightly different in this. So as you can see, so we have given paracetamol at 1400, which is due time, and the ferrous sulfate. So we go ahead now, sign for paracetamol. So it's slightly different, because if you look at it, it's asking you for prescriber name and date. So prescriber signature, name and date. Okay, so we're going to exactly do same, because it says in the box given by, sign, date and time. So you will put your signature, date will be your exam date. If your scenario says today, it means your exam date, so you will write that, and then you will add time. Now time is as the due time, so you will add 1400 in there. Okay, so again for the ferrous sulfate, same thing. It was due at 1400, so you're given it at 1400. So you will put your signature, date will be exam date, and then your 1400, which is your time of giving. So that's slightly different to how we do it in the in-hospital patient scenario. So that would, once you're given the drugs, obviously you will make sure your patient is comfortable, and then you will do your hand hygiene and you will finish your station. Okay, so the whole point of today's video was to show you what a community drug chart looks like and what you need to do, how you need to document. So I hope you like these videos. Now, top tips wise, they are the same as in inpatient and hospital scenario. Make sure you check the validity of every prescribed drug. Make sure you say tip number 1. Tip number 2 is say indication, the purpose of that drug for your patient. So clearly say that, otherwise your examiner will stop and ask you. Tip number 3 is, again, when you're dispensing your drugs, make sure you have done all the required checks. Tip number 4, which is again very important tip, make sure you're checking your patient ID and allergy status against this drug chart. So that's really important, because in community your patient is not wearing a name band or allergy band. So you're basically checking this against patient verbal check. So you're asking your patient name, date of birth and address, and checking that against your prescription chart, and also the allergies against your prescription chart. Tip number 5 is correct documentation. Make sure that you add the time again, because people forget to add the time. They just put sign and date, but you do need to add time again in community drug chart, so don't forget that. So I hope you like this station and this video. If you do like, please press the like button now and subscribe to my channel, and you can also email us on OSCE Nurse Training at outlook.com, and also visit our website, which is oscenustraining.com. We provide online, face-to-face, and just API and skill packages training as well, if that's the only thing you need. So I will soon be back with another video for you. Bye for now.